Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. Alright guys, every single night we get together for between 5 to 8 minutes, depending on the length of the content, and we talk about the what, the why, and the how that the far left gun controllers are either gaining ground or losing ground, but most importantly, we focus on that why. Why are they doing it? What are the patterns that are emerging while they're doing it? And how do we get in front to pass the blessing of the Second Amendment along to the next generation? Because we will. Let me hear an amen in the comments field below if you agree. All right, so we've got a new thing. I'm going to introduce the content tonight, and it's all about the White House is meeting with state attorneys general on the best way to sue and hold accountable gun manufacturers. Now, before I go too deep into that, I want you guys to watch the video from last night, right here. It's all about the Mexican government that is now suing from a state level in U.S. federal court gun manufacturers in the United States. Now, that's an interesting thing because it's basically one of the precursors to what we're going to talk about tonight. In fact, if you look at the past 2 weeks on the gun control front, you've got New York and California who made it okay to sue and hold liable manufacturers of firearms. Okay? They're starting down that road. Right after that, about 4 or 5 days later, you had a $33 million settlement from Remington to the victims' families of the Sandy Hook tragedy, which was a tragedy. It was terrible. 5 days after that, and even mentioned in the lawsuit, Mexico goes after the same gun manufacturers on a state level, like literally a country level, okay? Well now, about 24 hours after Mexico declares that lawsuit, the White House meets with attorneys general from the far left states of the United States on how to take their states and make the gun manufacturers liable the same way Mexico's trying to do. Now this goes up against a bunch of things. Everything is linked in the description box below, and I want to know what you guys think on this because this is an important one to share because the gun battle is shifting. The battle of ideas is now shifting. The left has shifted multiple times, and in fact, they've gone after the PLCAA, which is legislation, which we talked about earlier in this year, but we're going to hit on it a little bit more in this video because that's where they're going now, but on a state level. So let's dive in, and I want to hear what you guys think. Again, links in the description box below for your review. Article tonight. The White House state AGs seek ways to hold manufacturers and dealers responsible for gun crimes. This is from USA Today. The story highlights attorneys general from 7 states plus the District of Columbia will talk with the White House about fighting gun violence. Interesting, fighting gun violence. I wonder what they're going to talk about. Oh, next bullet point. The Federal Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act is expected to be a key point of discussion. Well, that's interesting because the PLCAA, which we covered on last night's video, it protects the liability of the gun manufacturers from anybody who uses their products illegally or in a negative manner. It still allows them to get sued if something's defective, but not of the intent or the destruction of an individual who uses that product, similar to medical companies, but also car manufacturers, okay? But it's interesting that they're bringing this back because that's the same thing that the Mexican lawsuit says, well, we can get around it because we're not in the United States. That's fascinating how those two things came together within 24 hours. You seeing a pattern? Let me know in the comments, all right? So here we go. Here's the nitty gritty. Here's what they're actually doing. Straight from Washington. White House officials met Thursday with attorneys general from 7 states and the District of Columbia to discuss steps they can take to hold accountable gun manufacturers and dealers who firearms wind up in shootings. Okay, well, it's interesting because I'm pretty sure the only thing that ends up in shootings are guns. So it's be all manufacturers. But now, what are the odds the PLCAA pops up again? Since they introduced it in like February, March, so they want to get rid of it, and they put legislation on the floor. Because the only way to get around the PLCAA is to remove it through legislation, which they can do in the House, but they can't do in the Senate because they don't have 60 votes to do so. Fascinating. Fascinating it's making a turn right when Mexico does it. There's no lines here. No one's holding these strings. A key part of the discussion was expected to center on the Federal Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, which gives gun manufacturers and dealers blanket immunity for being liable when their products are used to commit crimes. Biden has pushed for Congress to repeal the law, but that's unlikely in the Senate where it would need 60 votes. Now, we've covered that significantly earlier in the year. A lot of our videos were incorporating those pieces. But that doesn't mean that the PLCAA still isn't a significant barrier, an administration official told USA Today. One of the key things we need to do is repeal it. Again, 60 votes in the Senate, which they don't have. And we're still fighting for that every day. But in the meantime, we're going to be creative about talking to states about how they can use existing law to make policy change. So you're going to make national policy change around a federal law because you don't like that federal law and you don't like the Second Amendment, so therefore you're going to go to a state level. Oh, this is going to be fun when we get in the court system. That's what they're going to do. That's where we're going. We're going back to the PLCAA because we've been everywhere in this fight so far this year. Why not go back to the PLCAA? Because, all right, here we go. This part, this is where it gets interesting. Listen to who was here. Attorneys General who took part are, I don't care about that person, Letitia James of New York. That's the same Attorney General who's trying to dissolve the NRA in New York. Next person I don't care about, Rob Bonta of California. That's the same person who is upset about the overturning of the assault weapons ban in California and has now fought to reinstate it. Interesting. Fighting the NRA, trying to dissolve it as a entity, and AR-15 bans in the state of California. That's interesting. It's almost like they're all Democrats and they're all going towards the same goals of gun confiscation and control. And that's what we're going to talk about. So this stuff right here, make no mistake, nothing happens on accident. If you look at the timeline and the path aiming at the gun manufacturers because they can't get the legislation, they can't get the Supreme Court, they can't get anything legally, so they're trying a different avenue. These people will try anything to get their ideas across, even if it's not legal or constitutional, because they want it and they know better than you. And that's really what that really cooks my grits. I'm going to be honest. These people will stop at nothing, which is why we have to be active and on our guard, because this is what we're fighting, guys. We're not fighting some small mom and pop Antifa group out in the street. We are fighting very specific, organized people who are trying to destroy the Second Amendment. And with us on guard and us active, they can't do it. But the second that we go to sleep and we're not active, they will make significant gains in this. But we ain't going to let that happen. Let me know what you guys think below. If you see the pattern, let me know. Until tomorrow, I'm Braden. See you later.